Okay. I think I may have had myself on mute, guys. So let's try this again. Let's see. Um, okay, no, it's not. Okay, last time I did a live video, I realized I had to redo it because I had this on mute. So I'm going to reintroduce myself, even though we're a couple minutes in, and just in case. I was talking about this book, and I wanted to tell you, and I'll just go ahead and tell you again. Whenever we got this book in from Kathy Bodega, or Catherine Bodega is her real name, but Kathy Bodega on Twitter, I read it to my kids. And when I told my girls that this book was coming out today, they said, "It's a book about me. Is that the book about me?" And so, as autistic people, first of all, it's like most of us weren't diagnosed 30 years ago. And so now people are starting to say, wow, I understand myself so much better. And you have autistic voices emerging. And one of our goals with Park End Books is to be an emerging press and a press with emerging voices. And this is a beautiful book. Our second goal, if you go and look at our website, one of our major goals is to make beautiful books. This one's beautiful. As is usual, we have a book plate as the first page, and then beautiful paper. And this is one of my favorite parts about this book, just to let you see, is we have little bird footprints at the bottom of each page. It's really cool. So this is our new book. And whenever it comes to autistic self-representation, one of the things that's really amazing to see, one of the reasons we really wanted to publish this book, is whenever the things other people try to express, they'll say, oh, well, if you were autistic, it might be as though something were a little bit louder or things like that. And that's not what it's like at all. This book is just the protagonist, Daisy's life is just normal. This is her normal. And so you see her strengths, you see her overwhelm, you see her bravery and her kindness and her creativity and her goodness and her joy. She's a very caring girl. And she's also autistic. And part of that autism for her is she gets very overwhelmed. She's got sensory overload a lot of times. But this is, of course, also a story of faith. So her faith comes through in a really beautiful way. I wanted to read you all a little bit from one of the reviews that has come out today as well. And just to give you a little bit. So this is I actually dropped this link into the comments from charlotteriggle.com. Now, Charlotte is a picture book reviewer mostly, but she reviewed this book because she also likes to review books about disability, self-representation, and hospitality. So I wanted to read just a little bit, and I want you to go to her site because she has a really great site. It's very accessible. She has everything alt texted. And she also put a SoundCloud recording of this in case you can't see and want to hear it in a normal voice instead of a screen reader voice. So that's in there. So I want to just take a little part here. Okay. So she talks about I call her Charlie. Charlotte Riggle talks about how disability and faith and hospitality work together in this book. And I want to just read a little bit about what Charlotte Riggle says about this book and how it represents disability. Because she's one of the people who has spent a lot of time reading these things. And she's one of the major sponsors of Multicultural Children's Book Day. And that's because she believes in this. So especially for disabilities. So here we go. She says, written by Catherine Bodega, who is herself autistic, the story is told from the point of view of an autistic child named Daisy. That alone makes this book a must-have. Many, perhaps most children's books with autistic characters are told from the point of view of a neurotypical friend or sibling. The autistic child's role in the story is to help the neurotypical child learn and grow. That's not the case with Two She Flew. The story centers Daisy's perceptions, her experiences, her way of interacting in the world. An autistic child reading the story will have the opportunity, perhaps for the first time, to identify with the character who is kind and strong and sometimes utterly overwhelmed by the intensity of her senses and of her emotions. They will get to identify with a character who has calm down rituals, who uses visual schedules to manage her daily routines, who wants and needs to feel safe. They will get to see their autistic needs presented matter of factly with kindness and acceptance. So, if you don't know how amazing that is, um, I'm just going to tell you it is. The fact that so few people treat autism as real, as something not to be feared and run away from, but as just part of the person who they love, someone who's autistic. It's so rare to see this in writing. And so this book is amazing for that reason alone. Um, but I really wanted to tell you about that. And this is also a faith book because we are a Christian press, an Orthodox Christian press that, well, we're Orthodox Christians, but our press is trying to bring forward Orthodox Christian, Catholic Christians, and high church, saint loving Protestants voices to market because there's not really a lot of market space right now dedicated to us. Right now, for the most part, if you're not some sort of a political person or someone who writes, in a genre where your faith isn't recognizable anyway, you're probably not on the bookshelf because the Christian section of most bookstores is dedicated almost entirely to low church evangelicalism. And that means not very many people get to see Orthodox and Catholic faith as normal, which is very strange because most Christians in the world, by a huge majority, are either Catholic or some version of Orthodox. So it's really nice to have this goal and to start to see our books come out like Darkness is as Light and now this one. It's really cool. So I wanted to also, the way that faith is understood in this book though is through the lens of Daisy's different abilities. So I went to read a little bit from Charlotte's review again to show you how this works because she has a really great review talking about miraculous realism, this idea that it's like magical realism, but it's not magical. It's reality, but reality through the eyes of faith. She talks about that. And then she also says, Daisy and her family are Orthodox Christians, and the events in the story happen in Daisy's home and in her church. Just as Daisy's sensory experiences and her emotions are more intense than other people's, her spiritual life is more intense as well. So whenever you read this book, you're going to have an autistic girl's point of view from an autistic author. Like Catherine, I think is, how old is she? She's born in like 95. I know this because I'm her editor, so I had to write it into the database. So she's 95. What is she like? She's not very old. She's 25 years old. But so she's not too far removed from Daisy's experience, but you can really tell that she understands what it's like to be an autistic girl because she writes straight from a close third person point of view with Daisy's point of view. And you also see this beautiful experience of faith from that close third person. So you're not going to get, this is what saints are, and this is what the Orthodox people do in their church at this time. But you are going to get what's normal to Daisy. And I think that's my favorite way of entering a story or learning about other people's faith is by hearing what matters to them, because that's that lived experience. That's where people are alive in God. And that's the thing that you really want to see. So I really recommend that you go over and read, follow that link that I put in the comments and go and read what Charlotte Riggle said about this book, because it's beautiful. And I also will be adding some of the other review snippets to our website later today. We also just got a really beautiful review from Orthodox Christian Parenting, which is a large Facebook group. And they also really liked the book. And I've had a couple of other people who really loved it as well. But it's really amazing to have an adventure story that also centers autistic experiences, though it's normal, because of course it is our normal. And as this channel is dedicated to our autistic home and autism and, faith that you can touch, this idea of faith, the intersection of faith and autism, and also just autism in daily life, I really wanted y'all to know about this. So I appreciate you for joining me. I appreciate, yeah, that's what I said it right. Sometimes I I am autistic, and sometimes my words, when I'm reading a word, like I saw this on screen, sometimes they collide in my head, what I'm reading and what I'm saying, so forgive me. But I really wanted to let you know about this. As I said, when my daughters found out that it was coming out, they said, "Oh, that's the book about me." And I feel like it's really amazing to be able to put a book into children's hands where they can recognize themselves. And not only that, but you'll also recognize if you're not autistic, you could also recognize this love. There's universal themes here. And you'll also recognize the friendship. Daisy's got some really amazing friends. She's a really cool kid. So I would encourage you to pick it up. It's available wherever books are sold. And I appreciate you joining me. So we're going to end this stream, and I'm going to pop over and answer any questions people have on Facebook, or if you have any comments on Twitter, I will talk to you there. Thank you so much.